Alright, so check this out. We have our basic, blocking out here of the shapes of the still life. And now the next step is just to take these simple shapes and gradually begin to get them more specific, more details. Okay, so you've seen already where I had made some adjustments to this birdie here. I initially had had the oval up here, and I changed it 3 times before I got it right. Okay, that same concept is applied for the duration of this drawing. But now that you have some basic information in the basic layout, you can begin to look at all the details of these objects and just enhance them. So let me start with this Nerf gun, for example. Now we have the blue section here and a little bit of orange section here. I have the basic box shape, and now I just begin to reassess all the little details and even add things I may have overlooked because I was simplifying before. And if I need to redraw something, I may start pretty simple because I'm still trying to feel where things are at. But once the lines are there, that's when I get to get a little more detailed. And as I'm working through this, I will I probably won't erase a lot right away. I don't typically erase too much in the middle of the process unless I feel like something is distracting me. I get a pretty good idea of which lines I want to keep and which lines I don't. But I'm just looking at the still life and then gradually making adjustments as needed. And if they need to be big changes, then I make them. If they need to be little changes, then I make those. So I already can tell I may be making some things substantially bigger and maybe other things significantly smaller. But all I'm doing is just comparing the still life itself, that's really the goal, to my drawing. Any part of my drawing that is less than ideal, I change it. You can move the drawing, you can move your hand, whatever works for you to make the changes. I'm likely going to leave my drawing where it is, mainly so it stays in the video camera frame, but there are times where I will make adjustments by turning the paper. I'm just getting more specific information. I'm looking at narrow spots, wide spots. One thing in particular, with all these ins and outs around the blue and orange part, there are parts that are lower on the gun and parts that are raised up. So I want to pay special attention as to which parts are which. I'm not too worried about shading in right now. We'll do more of the value study later on. For now, we're just looking at line drawing and just understanding where a lot of these shapes come from. Yeah, in this section there are several of these little cross beams here. And what I'm noticing is I've probably made this gun a little too small. And I don't stay in one spot for very long. Part of that is because every little bit of this drawing informs other parts of the drawing. Now I am going to erase a few things because it's going to help me see the rest of it better. These are just guidelines that I had initially, and I don't need those anymore. There is a line that runs the length of the gun. It's like a little ridge in the plastic. Some letters here. I think I want to start working on the birdie. Now the birdie has these feather details, this kind of scalloped edge around it. You'll see in the reference photo. And what I'm looking at is the size of them, the shape of them, and also where they intersect parts of the gun. And I use the edge of this oval as a guide. I know that that's the edge I want, so I make sure that the top of these little feather shapes stays right around that area there. Now these will change shape as you go around the Nerf gun. On this side they'll be their full width, but up here and here they will look narrower because the birdie is shifting the direction of those. So you can see how I use the oval as a guide. I'm noticing, again, each one of these is a different kind of curve. Really, this is an exercise in observing and looking and seeing. Now right here, these feather shapes are pointing right at me. I don't even see the edge there. So I'm going to leave that line where it is. Come back up here and start to draw these. And they really don't show up. Now in the center of these is a little center stripe, which ultimately comes down this way. I'm just going to sketch these in. I'm not exactly certain if these are right, so I'm going to start out with these going very lightly. Just looking at all the little details here. They get closer together as they work in. That's going in the wrong direction. So I'm just going to start the new line. And again, if you need to feel it out first, that's fine. Like that. I'm going to go ahead and erase all those extra ovals because it's going to be a little messy to do it later. So I just erase those now. Now down here, those lines start to mix together. I don't even really see them. So I'm going to leave them blank, but on the outside here I do see some. But I want to make some adjustments to this. So I'm just looking at all the little shapes and differences from what my drawing looks like compared to what the actual still life looks like. I need to make this a little wider in here. A little bit. And then there's where the blue curves around. You know, that curve is just half of an oval, right? So I put that on there. Now, there isn't a line here, but there are several little holes that line up on the same kind of roundness to it. So I'm going to put the line there as a guide, and then I'm going to have some of these the feather centers, I'm not even sure what to call them, work down there. And then in between those are these little holes right here. So pay attention to, if they're ovals, the direction they go, because that will describe the curve around the birdie as well. We'll talk more about ovals later on, as far as the specifics of them. But for now, what you're doing will work. Okay. You can even draw the shadow shape in there. You can shade it in if you want, just to differentiate it, but every shape is critical. It's important. It informs you of the other shapes. Now, if you want to start working on small little details, you have these the rays inside these feathers, fake feathers, right? Plastic badminton birdie. Now, there are areas like this that are so textural and so pattern-like that you certainly can spend time getting the exact shapes that you see, but you can also get away with doing a quick look-alike, I guess, a pattern or repeating texture to suggest what they are. So you decide what's going to work best for you. The closer you can get it to what you see, the better, I think, but it can be tedious to take that on. All right. I'm going to move over here to the clock for a minute. And all I'm doing is just, again, refining these shapes. This one's pretty basic anyway. It's just a cylinder on its side. So maybe all I need to do is darken the lines a little bit. I'm noticing that this should be up a little higher, or the clock should be back a little further. I'm going to move the clock back because I think it will be an easier move, but that will affect other parts of the drawing. And this is the old line. Just kind of feel your way around that. Now there's a button on top of this clock that I sketched in really lightly. I'm going to go back and round it out there. And just make some of these lines a little more definite. Now I'm going to pay extra attention to the curves inside the clock because they're going to widen and narrow at different rates because of the shape of that clock face. So I'm just checking these shapes to make sure I have them in the right spot. If I feel like they're right, then I will darken them. If I'm not certain, then I will keep them light. So I think this pencil sharpener needs to be a little longer. What I'm looking at is how it lines up with the birdie. This corner here should be a little lower. Again, I can't stress enough that the most important thing you can do is to just be willing to change your mistakes. If something isn't right, just change it. A little cleanup in there. Now the tape measure. Lots of changes to make here. This, well, it's pretty good. But then, that's what that needs to be. Now this line is not right. I'm going to change that. And it's not off by much, but it's enough that it makes a big difference. And then this oval here, when you look at that tape measure at its side, it's actually a circle, but an oval is just a circle that's been twisted a little bit.